Now we are going to see the working of Nicol prism. So in the previous lecture we introduced you with the construction of Nicol prism. Now we are going to look at what is the working, that is how the Nicol prism helps us in obtaining the plane polarized light. So we are going to discuss the action of Nicol prism. Now in the case of Nicol prism, the Nicol prism, it is made up from the calcite crystal, and the calcite crystal is divided into two halves. So that we already discussed that how the calcite crystal is divided into two halves and then again cemented together using the coating of the Canada balsam layer. Now this Canada balsam layer, this has refractive index of 1.55. Then the calcite crystal for the case of ordinary ray, calcite crystal for the case of ordinary ray has the refractive index which is 1.66, and the calcite crystal for the case of extraordinary ray has the refractive index 1.48, and that we already discussed. Now we are going to see what is the working. So we are making the unpolarized light to fall on the principal section of the Nicol prism. So the principal section of the Nicol prism is this ABCD. It is a parallelogram. The angle, this acute angle in a natural crystal is equal to 71 degrees, but for the case of Nicol prism, we grind and polish these end faces such that so as to reduce this acute angle from 71 degrees to 68 degrees, and this is done for a purpose, and we will see that what is the purpose of reducing this acute angle. And also in the case of Nicol prism, the length is taken about 3 times as that of its width. So when the unpolarized light it falls on this face of the Nicol prism, so this Nicol prism is made up from the calcite crystal, and calcite crystal is a birefringent material. So there will be double refraction inside the calcite crystal. So when unpolarized light it falls on the Nicol prism, the light ray it gets split into two rays. So one will be the extraordinary ray and another will be the ordinary ray. Now the extraordinary ray, it has its vibrations of electric field in the plane of the principal section. Now principal section which I have drawn, this principal section, that is in the plane of the paper, and the vibrations of this ray, E ray, extraordinary ray, has the vibrations of electric field which are in the plane of paper, or you can say in the plane of the principal section of the Nicol prism. Then the other ray which is called as O ray, it has the vibrations of electric field which are perpendicular to the plane of paper or perpendicular to the principal section of the Nicol prism. Now the incident ray it gets divided into two rays. Now this E ray has the refractive index of 1.48 inside the calcite crystal, and the Canada balsam layer, this Canada balsam layer has the refractive index of 1.55. So refractive index of Canada balsam layer is 1.55. Then refractive index for the case of extraordinary ray is equal to 1.48. Then refractive index for the case of ordinary ray is 1.66. So if you're looking only at the extraordinary ray, the ray which is at the top, so extraordinary ray inside the calcite crystal has refractive index 1.48, and it is striking at the Canada balsam layer, and Canada balsam has refractive index 1.55. So this Canada balsam is denser for E ray. This Canada balsam is denser than the calcite for the case of E ray. So the refractive index for the extraordinary ray is 1.48 inside the calcite crystal, and for the case of Canada balsam, the refractive index is 1.55. So obviously this mu E is less than mu CB, or you can say the Canada balsam is denser than the calcite for the case of extraordinary ray, and in the other way around, the Canada balsam is rarer as compared to the calcite for the case of ordinary ray. So Canada balsam, it is denser than calcite for E ray, and it is rarer than calcite for O ray. The Canada balsam layer is denser than the calcite for E ray, but it is rarer than the calcite for the case of O ray. So now what happens that this E ray which is at the top, this ray it passes as it is through this Nicol prism. So there will be refraction at the Canada balsam layer, and After that, it will pass through the Nicol prism. But the O ray, the ordinary ray, it is the refractive index of the ordinary ray in calcite is denser as compared to the Canada balsam. From these figures, you can easily see that the refractive index for the case of O ray in the calcite is more than the refractive index of the Canada balsam layer. Therefore, we can say that the ordinary ray is traveling in a denser medium. So the ordinary ray is traveling in a denser medium and Canada balsam is a rarer medium. So we have the ray passing from which is striking at the Canada balsam layer from the denser medium. So the O ray is traveling in the denser medium and it is incident on a rarer medium. So there will be total internal reflection of this O ray if the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle. Only if the angle of incidence at the Canada balsam layer of the O ray is greater than a certain angle which we term as critical angle, only then this O ray will undergo total internal reflection, whereas the other ray, E ray, this ray is traveling in a rarer medium and it strikes on a Canada balsam layer which is a denser medium. So there will be normal refraction over here. So it will pass through the prism as it is. So the ray which we get outside the crystal on this side, this ray is the E ray and it has its vibrations in the plane of the principal section of the Nicol prism. The O ray which gets totally reflected inside the Nicol prism, it is absorbed by the black coating which is done on the two faces of the Nicol prism. So these faces of the crystal, they are of the Nicol prism, they are blackened, they are coated black, and this O ray after total internal reflection gets absorbed by that black coating. So this O ray is absorbed inside the Nicol prism itself, whereas the E ray, it travels through the crystal, through the prism, and on this right hand side we obtain the E ray. So we have converted the unpolarized light into the polarized one using the Nicol prism. So therefore we say that Nicol prism acts as a polarizer. So when unpolarized light is incident on the Nicol prism parallel to AD, so this ray is parallel to this length of the prism AD, it suffers double refraction inside the prism and splits into O ray and E ray as shown. So this incident ray, which is unpolarized light, it splits up into two refracted rays, one is E ray and another is O ray. Now when these rays, they strike at the Canada balsam layer, when these two rays, they strike at the Canada balsam layer, now Canada balsam is denser than calcite for E ray. So Canada balsam is denser than calcite for E ray, whereas it is less dense than calcite for O ray. So O ray travels from optically denser to rarer medium. So the O ray, the refractive index for the case of O ray is 1.66 and it is falling on the Canada balsam layer whose refractive index is 1.55. So we say that O ray travels from a optically denser medium to a rarer medium. So therefore it gets totally reflected in case the angle of incidence is greater than critical angle. So when the angle of incidence of this O ray is greater than the critical angle, then this O ray will get totally reflected inside the prism. So there will be total internal reflection, and total internal reflection, it always occurs when the ray is traveling from denser medium towards the rarer medium, and another condition is that the angle of incidence must be greater than a certain angle which we call as the critical angle. Only then total internal reflection will occur. So this reflected ray, this O ray which gets totally reflected, is completely absorbed by the lamp black coating which is applied to the sides of the crystal. So the sides of the crystals, they are coated black, and this O ray, it gets completely absorbed in the Nicol prism. And E ray is not reflected. The E ray will not get reflected at this layer because it is traveling from a rarer to a denser medium. So it will not get reflected as it travels from an optically rarer to a denser medium and is transmitted through the prism. So this E ray, it will be transmitted through the prism. So therefore we say that the Nicol prism acts as a polarizer, because on the left hand side what we had unpolarized light, and the light which we get on this opposite face is the plane polarized light with the vibrations of electric field in the plane of the principal section, or you can say parallel to the principal section of the Nicol prism. So this Nicol prism acts as a polarizer. Now, why do we reduce the acute angle from 71 degrees to 68 degrees? So we have already said that we grind and polish these two end faces of the crystal so as to reduce the angle from 71 degrees to 68 degrees. So we reduce the natural angle 71 degrees to 68 degrees, and also we keep the length of the prism. We keep the length of the prism almost 3 times that of the width. So this length of the prism is almost 3 times that of its width, and these two conditions are taken because only under these two conditions the O ray will fall at the Canada balsam at an angle of incidence which is greater than critical angle. What we want in Nicol prism? What we want in Nicol prism is that the O ray must undergo total internal reflection. Total internal reflection has two conditions. First, the ray must travel from a denser to a rarer medium. Second, the angle of incidence of the ray should be greater than the critical angle. Now the first condition is satisfied for O ray, because for O ray the refractive index in the calcite is greater than the refractive index of the Canada balsam layer. So the first condition of total internal reflection is satisfied. The second condition is that the angle of incidence must be greater than the critical angle. So for the angle of incidence to be greater than the critical angle, these two conditions are mandatory. So these two conditions, they are done so as the angle of incidence of the O ray at the Canada balsam layer is greater than critical angle. Only under these two conditions the angle of incidence will become greater than critical angle. Therefore we apply these two conditions on the Nicol prism. Now what is the critical angle for the case of O ray? Now the refractive index of the O ray with respect to Canada balsam, let's say we write it as mu. The refractive index of the O ray in the calcite with respect to the Canada balsam layer is given by mu O divided by mu CB. Now what is mu O? Mu O is 1.66 divided by mu CB, that is 1.48. So this ratio gives us the refractive index of O ray in the calcite with respect to the Canada balsam layer, because O ray is traveling from the calcite towards the Canada balsam. The O ray is striking from the calcite on the Canada balsam layer. Therefore we take the refractive index of O ray in the calcite with respect to the Canada balsam. So this ratio will give us mu. Now how do we find the critical angle? So in +2 class you might have done the formula of the critical angle that we derive. The sine of the critical angle is equal to 1 by mu. Now mu is the refractive index of the denser medium with respect to the rarer medium. So sine of the critical angle is equal to 1 by mu, and this derivation you might have done in your high school. So from here you can easily find the critical angle for the case of O ray. So critical angle can be found out using these figures, and this formula you can easily find the critical angle, and that will come out to be approximately 69 degrees. So if the angle of incidence for O ray is greater than 69 degrees, so this is the critical angle for the case of O ray. So if the angle of incidence for O ray at the Canada balsam layer is greater than 69 degrees, only then it will suffer total internal reflection. So this angle of incidence must always be greater than 69 degrees, only then this O ray will get totally reflected inside the Nicol prism. And these two conditions must be satisfied, only then the O ray will fall at the Canada balsam layer at greater than 69 degrees. So these two conditions must be satisfied, only then the angle of incidence of the O ray at the Canada balsam layer will be greater than 69 degrees. So this is how the Nicol prism works. Now we are going to see how Nicol prism will act as analyzer. So we already did how Nicol prism acts as polarizer. Now we are going to see how the Nicol prism can act as analyzer. Now what is analyzer? It analyzes the state of polarization of the light. The Nicol prism will help us in finding the state of polarization of the incident light. So whether it is plane polarized light or not, so the Nicol prism will help us in finding if the incident light is plane polarized light or it is unpolarized light or any other light. Now when two Nicol prisms P and A, so I have shown over here two Nicol prisms, so I have drawn only the principal section. So this is the principal section of the Nicol prism P, and this is the principal section of another Nicol prism which is denoted by capital A. So this is the Nicol prism P and this is the Nicol prism capital A. So when these two Nicol prisms, they are arranged coaxially adjacent to each other. So they are arranged adjacent to each other. First Nicol prism P will act as polarizer. So this Nicol prism, this will act as polarizer, and its working we have already done in the previous page. So when unpolarized light it falls on the Nicol prism, it will get split into two refracted rays. The ordinary ray will get absorbed inside the Nicol prism due to total internal reflection and due to the black coating which is done on the two faces of the crystal. And the other ray, E ray, it will pass as it is through the crystal. So the ray which has its vibrations parallel to the principal section, the ray which has its vibrations of electric field parallel to the principal section of the Nicol prism, it will pass as it is. It will be transmitted through the Nicol prism. The ray which has its vibrations of electric field in the plane of the principal section or parallel to the principal section will be transmitted through the Nicol prism, whereas the other ray which has its vibrations perpendicular to the principal section of the Nicol prism will be absorbed inside the Nicol prism by total internal reflection. Now this another Nicol prism which has been kept over here. Now this Nicol prism is kept such that its principal section is parallel to the principal section of the first Nicol prism. So in this particular arrangement I have first Nicol prism P and I have another Nicol prism A. Now these two are arranged in such a way that the principal section of both the prisms is parallel to each other. So in this particular arrangement, the Nicol prisms are said to be parallel Nicols. So this arrangement is called as parallel Nicols. The principal section of both the prisms is parallel to one another. And this arrangement of such combination of polarizer and analyzer, as we already did, that P and A, they are arranged coaxially adjacent to each other. First Nicol is P and it acts as polarizer and other acts as analyzer. So the first Nicol prism will act as polarizer and another prism that we will keep, that will act as analyzer. Now such a combination of Nicol prisms, such a combination of polarizer and analyzer is called as polariscope. Such a combination of two Nicol prisms in which first acts as polarizer and second one acts as analyzer is called as polariscope. Now if the unpolarized ray of light is incident on the first Nicol P, so the unpolarized light is falling on the first Nicol prism P, E ray is transmitted with its vibrations lying in the principal section of the P Nicol prism. So E ray will be transmitted through this Nicol prism and it has its vibrations parallel to the principal section, or you can say in the plane of principal section of the first Nicol prism. Now the state of polarization of the light can be analyzed. The state of polarization of the light can be analyzed by another Nicol, this Nicol which is called as analyzer. So this second Nicol prism which is kept after this first Nicol prism, this Nicol prism will act as analyzer and we will see how it analyzes the state of polarization of light. So the state of polarization of light can be analyzed by the another Nicol which is called as analyzer. Now if the principal section of analyzer A, if the principal section of this Nicol prism is parallel to the principal section of the first Nicol prism, if the principal section of this analyzer is parallel to the principal section of this polarizer, E ray is transmitted through the analyzer also. So this is the polarizer and this is the analyzer, and this polarizer, it will transmit only the E ray, and this E ray will fall on the second Nicol prism whose principal section is kept parallel to the principal section of the first Nicol prism. So in this case also the vibrations of the electric field, they are in the plane of principal section. So these vibrations of electric field, they were in the plane of principal section of first polarizer, but we have said that the analyzer, this second Nicol prism, is kept in such a way that its principal section is also parallel to the principal section of this polarizer. So if the vibrations of electric field of this E ray, they are in the plane of principal section of the first prism, so these vibrations will also be in the plane of the principal section of this second Nicol prism, because they both are kept parallel to each other. So therefore this E ray will also get transmitted through the second Nicol prism, because the vibrations of the electric field which are in the plane of principal section of the Nicol prism is allowed to pass through the first prism. Now the same E ray, it falls on the another prism whose principal section is also parallel to the vibrations of the electric field. So it will also pass through this light ray, E ray, it will pass through the second Nicol prism. So we will get E ray outside the second Nicol prism or the analyzer. So if the principal section of analyzer A is parallel to the principal section of P, E ray is transmitted through the analyzer without any hindrance. So E ray will pass through this analyzer without any hindrance. So in this case, in the case of parallel Nicols, so this arrangement, this particular arrangement in which the principal sections are parallel, is called as parallel Nicols. So in the case of parallel Nicols, the intensity of the emergent E ray is maximum. So the ray, it passes through this analyzer. So the whole ray will pass through it as it is. So the intensity of this E ray, the emergent ray from this analyzer, will be maximum. Its intensity will be maximum. Now what we will do next? Now we will start rotating this second Nicol prism. If we will start rotating this second Nicol prism, the principal section will also start rotating. With the rotation of the second Nicol prism, its principal section will also start rotating. So therefore the intensity of the transmitted ray will start reducing. So intensity of this transmitted ray is maximum when the principal sections, they are parallel to each other. Now if you start rotating this second prism, with the rotation of the second Nicol prism, the principal section of this prism will also start rotating. So it will be no more parallel to the principal section of the first prism. So if you start rotating the second prism, the principal section will also start rotating. So these two principal sections will be no more parallel to each other. So therefore the intensity of the emergent ray will start reducing, and it will reduce according to Malus law that we studied. The intensity of the light will reduce according to Malus law. So if the principal section is parallel to the vibrations of electric field, if the principal section is parallel to the vibrations of electric field, it will pass as it is. The intensity will be maximum. But when this principal section will start making a certain angle with these vibrations, on rotation of this second Nicol prism, this principal section will also rotate. So therefore this principal section will make a certain angle with the vibrations of the electric field of this E ray. So let's say it makes theta angle. So accordingly, the intensity that will get transmitted, intensity of the light which gets transmitted, will obey Malus law. So the intensity will reduce according to Malus law that we studied. And what is Malus law? That intensity of the transmitted ray is equal to maximum intensity into cos square theta, where theta is the angle which is made by this principal section with the vibrations of the electric field. So the emergent ray, the intensity of the emergent ray can be given by the Malus law on rotation of the Nicol prism. Now what happens if this Nicol prism is rotated? So firstly, if you rotate this Nicol prism, the intensity of this E ray will start reducing. As you will see it from this right hand side, you will see that first, when the principal sections of both the prisms is parallel, the principal sections both are parallel, intensity is maximum. But as you start rotating this second Nicol prism, this analyzer, as you start rotating, this principal section will also start rotating, and the intensity of the emergent ray will start reducing. Then when the Nicol prism, this second Nicol prism, is rotated by 90 degrees, when this Nicol prism is rotated by 90 degrees, at that point of time there will be no emergent ray. When the Nicol prism is rotated, and after 90 degree rotation of the second Nicol prism, you will see that there is no light which is emitted. That is, the intensity of the emergent ray is 0 in that case. And that happens because in that particular arrangement, this E ray will act as O ray inside this second Nicol prism. After the rotation by 90 degrees, this E ray which is emitted from the first Nicol prism, it will act as O ray inside the second Nicol prism. And why does this happen? As you can see from this first figure, the vibrations of electric field of O ray, they are perpendicular to the principal section, and therefore it gets totally reflected inside the Nicol prism. So O ray, it has its vibrations perpendicular to the principal section, therefore it gets this ray, O ray, it gets absorbed inside the Nicol prism, it gets totally reflected. Now this E ray which is emerging from the first Nicol prism, after the rotation of this Nicol prism by 90 degrees, if you rotate the Nicol prism, this second Nicol prism by 90 degrees, the principal section, earlier the principal section, it was making 0 degrees with the vibrations of electric field. In this particular arrangement which I have shown over here, the principal section is parallel to the vibrations of the electric field. But when you rotate this Nicol prism by 90 degrees, the principal section will become perpendicular to the vibrations of this E ray. When you rotate the Nicol prism by 90 degrees, the principal section of the Nicol prism will also rotate. It will also rotate by 90 degrees. So now in that particular arrangement, the principal section will make 90 degrees with the vibrations of this electric field. So therefore this E ray, it will make, the vibrations of the electric field will make 90 degrees with the principal section in that particular arrangement. Therefore E ray will act as O ray inside that Nicol prism after rotation by 90 degrees. So this E ray will act as O ray because O ray has vibrations perpendicular to the principal section, therefore it gets totally reflected. So only the O ray gets totally reflected, but this, in the second Nicol prism, this E ray will act as O ray after the rotation of the Nicol prism by 90 degrees. So this E ray which acts as O ray in the second Nicol prism will also be absorbed. This E ray inside the Nicol prism, inside this second Nicol prism after rotation by 90 degrees will have its vibrations perpendicular to the principal section. So it will act as ordinary ray and therefore it will be totally reflected inside this second Nicol prism and will be absorbed, and therefore after rotation by 90 degrees, the emergent ray, there will be no emergent ray, therefore the intensity of the emergent ray will be 0 in that case after the rotation of the Nicol prism by 90 degrees. So if the analyzer is rotated gradually, the second Nicol prism which acts as analyzer, if it is rotated gradually, the intensity of E ray decreases in accordance to Malus law. In accordance to Malus law, the intensity of the emergent ray will start decreasing as you rotate the second Nicol prism. In case the angle between the principal section of the two Nicols is 90 degree. Earlier in the first arrangement, the two principal sections, they were parallel to each other, but as you rotate the Nicol prism, the angle between principal section will start changing. So in that case, when the angle between the principal sections is 90 degree, the principal sections of two Nicols, they make 90 degree with each other, then they are called as crossed Nicols. So earlier in the arrangement, when the principal sections were parallel, that arrangement was called as parallel Nicols. And in this case, when the principal section of two Nicols is 90 degrees, they both are perpendicular to each other, they are called as crossed Nicols. Now in this case of crossed Nicols, when E ray enters the analyzer, so I have shown over here, this is the first Nicol prism and this is the second Nicol prism after rotation by 90 degrees. So the first Nicol prism, it will polarize the light it will polarize the unpolarized light, it will absorb the O ray, and E ray will be transmitted through the first Nicol prism, and this E ray, when it will enter the analyzer, the second Nicol prism, which has been rotated by 90 degrees. So this E ray will act as O ray inside the second Nicol prism, therefore it will be totally reflected inside the second Nicol prism. So in this case, when E ray enters the analyzer, when this E ray enters the analyzer, it acts as O ray. Hence it suffers total internal reflection, because in Nicol prism, the vibrations of the electric field, the perpendicular vibrations of electric field, they suffer total internal reflection. Therefore, in this case also, the vibrations of the electric field, they are perpendicular to the principal section, because the Nicol prism has been rotated by 90 degrees. So it suffers total internal reflection at the balsam layer. So no light comes out of the analyzer. So in this case, when Nicol prism, the analyzer has been rotated by 90 degrees, there will be no light, there will be no emergent light. So intensity of the emergent light will be 0. Now if the analyzer A is rotated further, now if you will again rotate the analyzer, the intensity will again start increasing. According to Malus law, it will again start increasing, and it will become maximum when again the principal section is parallel to that of the polarizer P. So as you rotate the Nicol prism further, as you make the rotation, the principal section, the angle of the principal section will increase with respect to the principal section of the first Nicol prism. So earlier the angle was 0 degrees. The diagram which I had drawn on the previous page, the angle between the two principal sections was 0 degrees. In this case, the Nicol prism has been rotated. The angle is 90 degrees. So if you rotate it further, the angle increases further from 90 degrees. So the intensity will again start increasing, and it will become maximum when the principal section is again parallel to that of P. So it will be again parallel to that of P after rotation by 90 degrees further. So after rotation by 90 degrees further, that is at 180 degrees. At 180 degrees, the principal sections will be again parallel to each other. So at 0 degrees, you will get maximum intensity. Then at 90 degrees, you will get 0 intensity. Then again, the intensity will start increasing. So at 180 degrees, you will get maximum intensity. So here you get maximum, here you get 0, here again you get maximum. Then further again, if you rotate it, further again after, let's say after again rotation of 90 degrees, that is 270 degrees, the intensity will be again 0. And further rotation by 90 degrees, that is at 360 degrees. So 360 degrees, nothing but this position, this first earlier position. So at that time, the intensity will be maximum. So this position is same as that of this position. So in 360 degree rotation, by this 360 degree rotation, you can see that intensity is maximum 2 times. This is the same case as that of this one. So these both are the same. So by 360 degree rotation, you can see that intensity becomes maximum 2 times and intensity becomes 0 2 times. So if A is rotated further, intensity again starts increasing and becomes maximum when the principal section, they are again parallel. Now in this way, the Nicol prism can be used as analyzer. Now if the intensity becomes maximum, then becomes 0, then again becomes maximum, then again becomes 0. So if this happens in the case of rotation of Nicol prism, we say that the light which is entering the Nicol prism is plane polarized light. So if the light which is entering the Nicol prism is plane polarized light and you rotate the Nicol prism, so after the rotation of the Nicol prism, during the rotation of the Nicol prism, you will see that intensity is maximum at one point, then becomes 0, then again becomes maximum, then again becomes 0. So this happens only when the light which is entering the analyzer is a plane polarized light. So therefore, we say that Nicol prism, this second Nicol prism, is an analyzer. It helps us in finding the state of polarization.